Welcome to the Human Evolution Podcast, where we dive deep into the science, philosophies, and strategies that create real and lasting change. I'm Ori Goldstein, and here we leave traditional self-help behind and map the real terrain of true personal development.
Welcome back, everybody. This particular episode is going to be a little unique. Ori has a year in review process that he wants to share, and we were going to keep this within the Shift community. As you know, Ori is one of the coaches in there, and it's our online community for mindset and health. And he put together something special for the community members, and we thought it'd be nice to share on the show, because it can benefit everybody, even if you're not a member of the community. Although we'd hope you go check out the community after this. We figured we would start there. So we figured the best way to go about this is, Ori can do a screen share. We'll walk through it. It will be a downloadable and fillable PDF that will be linked in the show notes for everybody to have access to. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through it now to give you a little bit of context so that when you see it and you go through it, you can follow along on your own at home. So give us a little intro about what it is and why you made it, and then we'll throw it up on screen and we'll get rolling.
Absolutely. And I just want to say that, even though that this is given the date that this is coming out, that it's a year in review, but what it really boils down to is I've been doing something very similar for the last multiple years, where I really want to pay attention to what were the things that affected me this year? What were some home runs I want to be really proud of myself and actually just kind of say these things were great for me. But even more importantly, the things that really make a difference is, to me, I just find that the greatest predictor of what's going to happen in my future is what happened in my past. And so when I really look at my past and I really pay attention to what are the things that gave me the most energy, and what are the things that on the inside I really feel I was drawn towards, and even more importantly, what were the biggest fears I had, what were the things that drained my energy, and what are the things I'd like to not do in the future. And it's a simple thing to really kind of discuss, but I discovered that when I actually went through over a period of time, and just it being the end of the year, it's a perfect time to just say what happened this past year. But you could just as easily say it on your birthday or on a random day, and just look at a last period in your life, whether it was last 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and just really examine, using these questions to kind of guide you, what were my home runs, what were the things that gave me energy, what were the things that took away my energy. And as you go through that, it really gives you a very clear picture as to how you can start planning for your future in the right way. And so it's what I say, it's the 7 questions that will change your life, where questions number 1 through 6 really has you analyze your past, however long that is. And question 7 basically takes the insights you got from the first 6 questions and start creating the future that you want based upon the answers you put in the past. It's really, really powerful. And it's this year, I just decided to do something a bit more comprehensive for me. And as it started coming out, I was like, this is something I really want to share with more people, because it really does incorporate a lot of the things that really matter to me in terms of what really Human Evolution Movement is really all about, which is get to know yourself at the deepest level and use that to guide yourself into your future. So I know that's a bit of a long introduction, but without any further ado, let me just share my screen and
Sure.
Let's try use some of this.
Sounds good.
There, so share screen, and where are you? Window, there we go. Share.
All right.
And so you can see my screen now?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so as we said, it's your year in review. And so we're just going to start off with question 1, which is basically, what did I evolve in this year? And to me, the big thing about this is what were my home runs, as I like to call it. It's like a lot of people at the end of the year, they just kind of look at their year and go, you know what, it was good, it was bad, whatever it is. But I really want to find out, what were the places that I really grew this year? What did I outgrow? What am I different about this year? Because the more you can see what home runs you hit, the more you build that sense of self-esteem and self-confidence, saying, I am actually an evolving, changing entity. And so this to me is a very, very important place to start. And the first thing I want to know is, what beliefs, habits, or mindsets did I outgrow this year? Maybe at the beginning of this year, I thought I wasn't capable of changing at all. Or maybe at the beginning of this year, I didn't really believe in my capability to start a business, and then I went off and I did it. What kind of habits did I change? You know what? Maybe I'm not going to the gym consistently, but do you know what? I changed the mindset inside of myself that makes it possible for me to think it's possible. Or my old habit of always drinking coffee first thing in the morning, I kind of changed that because I saw that this works better for me. Really, really powerful to really start seeing, where did I evolve? How did I make a change for myself in this year? And The whole thing about this is you don't want to go into crazy detail here. I specifically made it 4 lines because that should be enough to really just list down we're looking for the home runs. We're not looking for every tiny little thing. Otherwise, this will take you forever to go. My basic logic here is every question should take you about 15 to 20 minutes in total for question 1. Each of these 3 pieces of it should take you about 15 to 20 minutes to go through it. So question 1.1 is such: what beliefs, habits, or mindsets did I outgrow this year? And once you pay attention to what beliefs, habits, or mindsets you outgrew, next question is, what new understandings reshaped how I see the world or myself? So what things did I learn this year? What did I bring into my world in such a different way that it completely changed the way I look at the world in total? And those are the things that you kind of like want to pay attention to. How did I gain that bit of knowledge? Or what bit of knowledge really, really helped me understand things differently? It becomes really, really powerful in terms of actually being able to see how you learn and what learnings really shifted you. Before I go any further, do those make sense, or any questions about that, Lee? You're going to kind of be the proxy for every other person watching this. Any other questions about that?
No, this is great. So this is a kind of a prompt here to get you thinking. It's purposely short because the goal here, unless you want to get an extra piece of paper and you want to really go crazy with it, the goal here is just to keep it simple, concise, and just really focus in on like the big ones that come to mind, because there can be changes large and small. So if you struggle with this, like I often do when I'm prompted with something, you didn't have to have some massive turn of events. It could just be what made an impact on you and what do you remember from this previous year.
And for me, generally what I do this is like these 4 lines would come up to about 4 to 8 different bullet points for me. Very small things, like a new understanding I got this year is my understanding about diets that I actually learned from Brittany recently, for example, something along those lines. Just a very small bullet point that kind of reminds me, holy cow, this is something that was really big for me, and it really did change how I saw myself or the world. And again, it's small little things. And what you get to is at the end of these 3 questions is, after you fill them out and your brain is kind of like moving in that direction, what you really want to do is, when you get to the last point, is what are the key insights that I really have about myself based upon the answers I put in question 1? And just one extra question there, very, very simple: additional growth moments or reflections. Anything extra this year that is different that I also feel really helped me grow this year. And then once you fill out those 3, as you fill it out, you just check it off, because people like marking off their progress. It's very simple. And again, this is something that I create for myself that works for me. Do it in whatever way you want. For me, I print it out and I actually write down with a pen and paper. I make it messy. No one has to see this again. It's nothing like that. I just write down my notes. But the most important part here is to get to those key insights. So this kind of primes your brain with 3 separate questions to get to the key insights in terms of, what did I evolve this year? How did I evolve myself this year? And the whole idea here is at the end of this point that you've basically got a couple of sentences or a couple of bullet points basically saying, from this year, my key insights about myself are, holy cow, I really did hit some home runs, and here's a few of the big ones. I really changed my beliefs around what's capable for me, or I changed my belief around the way I view my family, whatever it is. Big things that just I want to keep in my mind for when I get to question 7, that will really help me understand myself at a deeper level and really know where I'm going.
We had a couple of good episodes about the actual, like the practice of journaling and how some people are afraid of what may come up. This isn't like that at all. This is celebrating your wins and your insights, although some things may pop up. But just like we said in that show, you can literally take this and do whatever you want with it, whether you do the online version or the printed version. You take it in your backyard, burn it. Nobody needs to see it. Now, I imagine there may be some value in keeping these year over year. Now, do you keep yours somewhere where you can go back and reflect?
Absolutely. For me, this is actually something that I definitely do want to review over the course of the year, especially question 7 when we get there, where it's something that I can use to pull myself back on track. It's very good. Like, let's just say 2 months from now, I find myself going into a lull, or I'm just not feeling great. It's really great to go back and say, you know what? Like, I'm not that big loser that I think that my mind is making myself out to be right now. Look at how much I did change over the course of like those last 12 months. But when I filled this in, I really did do big things. And these thoughts I have in my mind aren't necessarily a truth. So this is something I do enjoy keeping, but if people don't, that's completely fine too. It's use this in whatever way you want. it's just a great way to just kind of recap. So that takes us through question one, which is really just based on kind of like home runs that you hit. After you focus in on the home runs and how you evolved, we then move into the next question, which is what specifically energized me this year? And I'm sorry, I'm scrolling in a bit of a different way here. Okay, I like the statement I basically put here, which is basically if you pay attention to what really energized you, what gave you that sense of just like timelessness or things just really feeling great for you, it means that you got more in touch with your inner self, what really, really drives you. And when you can kind of list it out and say, do you know what really energized me? It was when I was spending time playing pickleball, or it was when I was spending time thinking about my family, or when I was spending time meditating, whatever it is, you start getting a list of the things that really, really mattered to you at a deeper level than just the stuff you did. And the thing I want to mention here is that the thing that makes it so powerful is at the end of the year, a lot of people, beginning of the year, kind of like the whole idea of New Year's resolutions and New Year's goals. The thing that I love about this is it's not about, when you get to that point, it's not about setting a goal. It's about really getting in tune with yourself in terms of what are those things that genuinely gave me energy, and let's do more of those things. And so it's question number one here is specifically around that. What specific activities, people, or moments lit me up, like really left me feeling absolutely alive and timeless? It was when I was spending time with this person and doing these things. What specific moments? It was when I went out and I actually saw a live play, as opposed to like when I went to movies, in which case I feel kind of like a zombie. And knowing those things, it means that as you start setting new things for you to do in the upcoming year, if you do more of those things, you're going to keep feeling lit up. And that is the difference that makes a difference in a big way. Does that make sense?
And it's always good to quantify these things. As you were talking now, thinking about the things this year that made me feel alive and gave me energy, I would never think about those things, and it's really important to do that. Not only so you can repeat the behavior, but B, there's this new thing out that I really enjoyed doing. I did it once, and so it's really good to be able to come back and revisit this stuff. I actually would even think that, I'm just speaking in terms of what I would do with this, I would fill it out, and then I could see myself taking information from this and leaving myself Post-its all over the place like a weirdo. But just like, hey, dumbass.
I love that idea. Yeah.
Like, remember this? You actually enjoyed doing this. Go do it again. Or go into your phone and put on your to-do list and do more of those. So you could turn this into a to-do list. I'm getting off the rails here, but I love it, man.
Not at all.
Great.
Not at all. And then the next one is kind of like along those lines is how much time did I spend feeding these energy creators versus neglecting them? So if you knew that something was really good for you, it's sometimes really good for you to kind of just get that thought in your mind of how much time did I really spend doing this? Did I spend a lot of time doing it? Or did I specifically just say like, do you know what? This is me being too selfish. And so let me go back to the other things. And it's sometimes really good for you to pay attention to seeing for yourself how much time you're actually allowing yourself to focus in on the things that matter to you. And that in itself can lead to a lot of insights in terms of, do you know what? I knew that I absolutely loved this, but it felt too selfish or it felt too self-centered for me to do. And so I didn't spend time on those things. And when you really kind of like can put that down in writing, it allows you to kind of like in that moment be your own therapist and understand the fact that that's probably not the smartest way to move through life. So I really love this question because I can very often write down things like, do you know what? I really enjoyed these activities. How much time did I spend doing them? 5% of my time. And that to me is a very, very, very big telling statement in terms of where I place my energy. Then it's beyond that, the next question is just, again, it's just any extra additional thoughts. Other specific energizing experiences that are worth noting, like aside from specific things, like, do you know what? When I went traveling and I just got that sense of when I just saw something that really, really lit me up, it just made such a difference. And you can just also then maybe even go a bit deeper in terms of what is the difference there that made a difference. Maybe it was the fact that I just saw something brand new, or I had a tour and I was explained something in a new way and it really changed the way I viewed things. A lot of those things can really, really help a person truly understand what lights them up on the deepest level.
All the time I spend reflecting on all the negative things and trying to avoid things that I don't like doing. This is perfect. It's like a complete shot in the other direction.
The final thing is, like I said, at the end of every question, you get the key insights, which is just where you get a chance to summarize it for yourself. And this is really going to be the thing that drives you the most. The key insights for me are, these are the things that really make a difference, but I can also see that this little grouping of things are things I just didn't pay enough attention to. Or these things really lit me up and I just never thought about them before. And it's really great for me to have them written down. And then, so now once we're done with the things that lit us up, just as important is to see the things, what are the things that specifically drained me this year? So which people, obligations, or habit left me feeling completely depleted? Do you know what? When I hung out with those people, I had no energy left. It's just like I felt like I was just surrounded by energy vampires. I left there and everything was terrible. Or specific obligations that specifically just, I knew I had to do them, but while doing them, I just felt like it was the worst thing in the world. And and then the next question beyond that is, how did I manage or fail to manage those energy drainers? So if you know that there were specific obligations that drained you, did you manage to do something about it? Did you maybe delegate it out? Did you maybe set some kind of boundaries around them? Or did you not do that? Which is also just as important for you to know, because maybe that is something you can change about in your upcoming year.
I feel like these sections should be way longer. I mean, I'm joking, but most people do. We do tend to lean towards the negative and think about those things. And for anybody who's listening on the audio format, we're on page 4. Sorry, I know that some of you that are listening to the audio podcast, hopefully you can follow along by clicking on this in the notes. If this doesn't make sense.
And what I would suggest is, for anyone that is just listening on the audio, if you want to, you could even pause this, download it from the link that will be provided in the show notes, and then just follow along by actually looking at the pages as we go through it. But yes, we're on page 4. And and you'll see, to Lee's point, to me, it's the exact opposite, where I don't want you to spend 2 pages writing about your energy drainers. I want you to figure out the most important ones that really, really got to you. And it's very possible that you'll write 2 pages, and then I'll tell you, just summarize them into 4 lines, no more, no less. Just the really, really important things that really, really got to you, because you don't want to, as Lee said, you don't want to be overly focused on the negative, as a lot of people are. You want to pay attention to the things that matter and no more than that. It's don't go too deep into this on that level unless it feels very, very important to you to do. But at some point in time, going too much into the negativity can also have its own cost associated with it.
We spoke about that before, about how you can get real dark real fast, and that's good. That's therapeutic. I think most people probably have enough bullets to fill in here of the negative highlights, without having to go through their day to day. Yes, I was stuck in traffic, and all. We're not talking about stuff like that. Just the main ones that pop up, that really you don't want to repeat if it can
exactly.
be helped.
To your comment of stuck in traffic, maybe one of your energy drainers, as an example, and I'm just going to use this, is constantly having to travel to work on a regular basis and spending an hour and a half to do it. And maybe one of your answers around that would be well, you know what? I could have taken public transportation and spent that time reading a book or doing something else, but I didn't. That would possibly be something that you do want to put in here, but you don't want to say stuck in traffic. You actually kind of want to look at the grand total issue and see if there's something around that you could have managed differently, because that's really what this is about. How do you make a change in the upcoming future? Maybe that's a matter of rideshare with someone from work, and then you're able to spend half of your time at least not doing that because the other person is driving the other 50% of the time. That's kind of where this can become very, very helpful for you. And so now it's at the end of, so let's just kind of recap here. So number 1 was your home runs and where you changed over the course of the year. Number 2 was what gave you energy. And number 3 is what specifically drained your energy. After that, what you kind of want to pay attention to is, it's very, very similar to your drainers, but specific anchors. So were there any specific stories or habits that you clung on to that no longer serve you, or specific people that drained you or made you feel bad about yourself or laughed at you? So for example, it's a lot of times in my past, there were specific people that when I hung around them, they would just tease me. We've spoken about this on our podcast a lot of different times. And it's just I didn't feel worthy enough to basically tell those people, you know what, I'm worthy of more. Or specific habits that were just anchors in your life, such as I've got a habit of constantly speaking badly about myself, or specific stories I'm too tired and too weak to do these things. And here's where you specifically want to pay attention to habitual patterns or habitual people that you spend time with, or things like that genuinely held you in place and didn't let you move. It's something that I posted in the group a few weeks ago about the concept of a butterfly sitting having tea with a caterpillar, and the caterpillar looking at the butterfly and going, "Damn, you've changed." And to me, it's just that whole idea of when you change, there's going to be a lot of people that will try and pull you back because it's uncomfortable for them that you are no longer the person that you used to be. And it's really, really helpful to look at your past and pay attention to, are these people still very predominant in your life? Are these habits, these thoughts, these patterns of thinking still anchors in your life and holding you in place as opposed to allowing you to flourish?
When Chris Williamson talks about the lonely chapter, that the people that you were around before that were kind of holding you in place, like what we're talking about now, when you're still around those people trying to change, but you haven't found your new group yet, you're kind of in between. So you still have these people holding you back, and they may be family and friends and people you really care about, but you're in between. You're in between like sets of friends and support. That's what it reminds me of when we talk about like anchors and being like held back.
And of course, I mean, this is kind of like a shameless plug right now. And I apologize for it. But like, I mean, like that to me is like where the community kind of falls in for me in a big way, in terms of the fact that like when you have those kind of anchors, it's really good to find yourself a new community. And that's obviously one of the big reasons why Brittany and I created Shift, in terms of the fact that you want to be around people that when you say what's going on for you, instead of them sitting there saying, oh, that's normal, you want them to tell you like, oh God, this is amazing that you're shifting so much and that things are changing for you. It's really, really good to associate. There's that saying that you're kind of like the sum product of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. And if that's a truth, choose to spend your time with the people that you actually most want to be like. Or in the same way, if you have so much extra time, listen to podcasts that inspire you, read books that inspire you, because at the end of the day, what you tend to be most around and what you tend to flood your brain with and your life with are the things that are really going to change you in a big way.
And just for anybody who's listening, we are on page 5.
So now moving forward onto the next one. So now you specifically also want to look at what specific fears held you back, or what did fear hold you back from? So what specific opportunities did you pass up on out of fear? Like what were things that you kind of knew in the back of your head would really be great for you, but your fear just said, no, maybe I'll do it next week or next month or something else. And when you do it year in review, there's something so, so powerful to see the patterns of times that you didn't do things out of fear. Like I knew I needed to talk to this person, but every single time I kept telling myself I'll do it next time. And that's fine if it happens once. But when you do it a year in review and you say, I still haven't spoken to this person, and it's been something that I've really, really wanted to do, becomes really, really powerful because it stopped being a specific incident and it started being a pattern. And so what specific opportunities did I pass up on out of fear? And so it could be a pattern or something very specific, like I really wanted to do this, but I was just too afraid to do it. And it's something really big that like, as you start seeing where did your fear show up, it allows you to start seeing in a few different ways. And I specifically put it here in terms of it's like just something that we talk about in Shift in terms of fear setting, that you can actually start dealing with your fears and actually start doing something different to actually start creating something different in your life. So, and the next question beyond that is, once you know what opportunities you missed out of fear, my next question here is a bit different, where I specifically ask, what would have been the best case scenario if I had taken action? And your brain has already gone into the worst case scenarios. What I want you to examine is, if I did take action, what's the best thing that could have happened? And that allows you to actually start opening up your mind to the possibilities of what could be different if you made this change now and brought that change into your future upcoming year. And when you put those two together, the insights that comes up with is really, really powerful.
Right. Worst case scenario is literally all we do all day. Thinking about like, what could have come out of it. We could have an issue with somebody. You go to them and in your mind, you're like, they're going to hate me, this and that. We're never going to speak again. But the reality of it is, you could have a hard conversation with somebody and you come out the other side of it resolved, feeling great, and then feeling silly for worrying about it in the first place.
More often than not, one of the core tenets of my philosophy is the fact that you're immature, because that child inside of you is so afraid to kind of confront people or whatever it is. But it tends to happen that when you really confront a person and when you do it from a place of just centeredness and love, that it's possible that that person might leave your life, in which case so be it. But more often than not, it just happens that the person learns to accept you for who and what you are, and things really do shift around that in a very, very big way. And I will just say again that like there is a whole worksheet that we created around this called fear setting, originally gotten from Tim Ferriss, where you actually take this in a very, very, very deeper way to actually use your fears as a way to kind of like push you towards the future. And so it's a very, very powerful exercise that is part of the Shift community. But it's like, I mean, even if you don't want to do it there, if you look up fear setting, it's maybe not as structured as it is in the worksheet, but it's a very powerful thing to use your fears as inspiration for your future without necessarily just pushing yourself in a negative way to get there. Question in terms of review is going to be, what were my greatest milestones or worst misses this year? So it's obviously, as you look over your entire year, you want to really pay attention to what were the huge things I did, or what were the worst things that happened to me as such. And it's not necessarily to like look at it and just feel amazingly bad or amazingly great. It's really just to say, it's to pay attention to the home runs, and to also at the same time to also kind of see, where did I kind of fall short? So what were my biggest hits this year? And even more importantly, why did they succeed? And now here I gave 4 lines, but this is the one, these 2 questions, I would say if you want to spend 2 pages on each of these, go for it, because this is really a great thing for you to really see. I made a huge home run earlier this year, and this is how I did it, and this is why it succeeded. It's because I had this support system. It's because I thought about it in this way, and it's because I finally decided to take action, and I hired a coach, or whatever it is. And in the same way, what were my significant misses, and why did they miss the mark? And also there, it's very important to sometimes pay attention to, you know what, they missed the mark because I didn't have the support system, or they missed the mark because the moment I got a little bit of negative feedback, I just ran away from it, or whatever it is. And those are insanely, insanely powerful things to pay attention to. And based upon that, you really want to pay attention to, again, it's not about a specific incident. You want to pay attention to what patterns existed for you. So when I succeeded, here's the patterns that made me succeed. When I failed, here's the patterns that made me fail. And that leads to very specific insights.
I failed at these things because I was hungover, ate like crap,
Yeah.
wasn't sleeping enough. I'm just using myself as an example. Or everything worked because I was getting proper sleep, having enough time and space in my day, not rushing. We could go in a million different directions with this. Even if we try to tell ourselves there's not, there's a direct link between that stuff sometimes. I shouldn't have done that on a Thursday night. And because of that, this came apart. And we know these things deep down, but I think it's really good to get that shit on paper.
And you hit the mark right on the head, which leads us to question 7. We'll get there in a minute. But when you can pay attention to what were my biggest hits this year and why, you might say, because I made it a large enough priority that I told myself that I'm going to do this no matter what. And that led me to not go out with my friends on Thursday night and go drinking, because I knew I had a big thing going on Friday morning. Whereas what were my significant misses? Well, I didn't make enough priority, so I did go out on Thursday night. Then when Friday morning came, I felt like crap, and I didn't necessarily do the things I needed to do. And you'll see that once you get those insights, that is exactly where we go in question 7, where we specifically want to put it all together. And we'll get there in a minute. It's in terms of what that basically boils down to. But the first thing you want to do is you want to basically use the insights section from each of the first 6 questions. And you want to say, what were my most powerful discoveries based upon the past 6 questions? What truly changed in how I think, act, or see myself? And I just said 5 really large bullet points given the other 6 questions. What truly changed in how I think, act, or see myself? What were my powerful discoveries? Based upon that, what are patterns I need to break? And this would be a big one in terms of like not prioritizing something and therefore not giving it the attention it deserves, and making other things more important, such as going out and drinking with my friends on a Thursday night when I know I'm going to be focusing in on something really big on a Friday morning or something like that. So what's showing up that no longer serves me? And again, just 4 or so bullet points that really, really are the biggest patterns that you understand that in this upcoming year or in this upcoming period that's coming up, what are the patterns that you need to break? The next thing beyond that is you want to pay attention to what strength do you want to leverage? Do you want to leverage, for example, your social group? Do you want to leverage your use of AI to like get better insights? What specific strengths, your ability, the fact that you really enjoy listening to podcasts, or the fact that you really enjoy learning? What natural abilities or traits help me succeed? And at the same time there, like I specifically said, it could go even deeper into, I've got a great social group, it's my family really listens to me, or my family really doesn't listen to me very much, in which case that would go into patterns I need to break in terms of running my ideas past my family and getting shot down. And so as you answer those first 6 questions, you kind of see where everything fits in here. And I'm hoping you can start seeing how once you use those insights from the first 6, how this now gives you a really good understanding about how you can do things differently in this upcoming year or period to make things differently. And then the final section here is really just looking forward, my core areas of focus. So now looking at your biggest home runs and the things that really worked out well for you, or things that didn't, but you knew were important, just coming up with 3 primary focuses. So this is just repeated 3 times on the last 2 pages. What is one primary focus I want to focus in on for this next period, for this next year? I really want to focus in on spending more time with my family, or I really want to focus in on exercising more. I really want to focus in on growing my business. And what are key action steps? And again, using the energy that you want to most leverage, or the things that you specifically know bring you energy. And you specifically want to bring this in. And I put in 3 here, but if you wanted to make this 5 different specific things that you want to focus in on, that's great. And so specific key action steps, you can do it. And then the specific support or resources that will make that possible for you. I want to use my coach on this. I want to specifically discuss it with my significant other and have them involved in it. I specifically want to put some specific money aside in order to make this easy for me. And the whole idea here is, after you've answered those first 6 questions, if you've done this right, obviously you have to decide what you want your primary focuses to be, but you should really get very clear about what the key action steps are, and even more specific, what are the specific support and resources that you have seen in your past truly bring you the most amount of energy and could make this happen for you. And that to me has been an absolute game changer, because it's no longer me guessing. It's me sitting there saying, you know what, looking at these last 12 months, these are the things that created real power in my life. And when I used them, I got a result. Let me use them again in these specific ways. And you can obviously take this much further in terms of maybe conversations you want to have with specific people, or creating a new bank account, or anything along those lines to specifically help you develop those resources to really pull you in the right direction. But like, as I said, I mean, this takes you through the whole exercise, and we did the whole thing in whatever it was, 10 minutes. This whole exercise should take you about 2 to 3 hours. And I will tell you that just going through this exercise, it is an extremely, extremely powerful way to really just use your past to most help you create the future you want. And to me, that's what it's all about. It's creating a future by design rather than by default. And it's the best way to do that is to just basically see what worked and didn't work for you in the past.
It's like keeping metrics on yourself. Not all of us are analytical, but let's say you have a power bill or a water bill or something like that. People keep track. We keep track of everything else in our lives. Taxes, how much is going for groceries, all these things. I don't think there's enough of this paper and quantifying the things that move the needle for your own mental health. And then of course that spills into every area of life. So this is a great exercise. Even that we were talking about strengths there too. Sometimes I have to remind myself that a strength of mine could be something that I feel comes easy to me. Something that comes easy to me may be really hard for somebody else. So you can't discount those things. So if somebody asks me like, hey, what are your strengths? And I'll be like, well, I know what's easy for me. I know what I'm good at, but is that really a strength? Because it doesn't count because it's easy for me to do. And on the contrary, those are the things you need to identify, because if it's easy for you, it may be really hard for somebody else to do.
I specifically want to kind of knock that into place, because that to me is the biggest thing about human evolution movement as a whole, in terms of the fact that you were made with a certain set of patterns that come easily for you, and certain ways of thinking and certain ways of feeling that make a difference to you. And when you play to your strengths, you win this game. It's what most people do, is that they just assume that they've got to be like this small little nuclear little piece inside of society that needs to do everything. Whereas if you can actually just understand the fact that there's so many other people out there that when you give them from your strengths, they will give you from their strengths, which could be your weaknesses. And that is where it's, to me, the idea of leverage is so important. Leverage people for their power. And the way you do that is using the things that come easily for you, whether that be the fact that you help them in a certain way or you pay them a certain amount, whatever it is. It's using your strengths to kind of piggyback on other people's strengths. Perfect example here is, and we've discussed this before, I hate the idea of talking into a void, whereas when you talk to me, I love talking. It's a great thing. It's like, so if I were to try and make up just this silly example of going through this specific worksheet by myself, it would go terribly. Just the fact that I've got you here and that your strength is asking the right questions and being here with me makes everything so much easier for me. So my strength is answering questions. My strength is not just giving monologues. Knowing that and working towards that strength made it possible for this podcast, for all these kind of bits of sharing information happen for me. And it's one of the things I'm so grateful for you for, that you are just an absolute gift in my life. an important thing to say when it comes to the new
Well,
year.
thank you. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that. And the good news is I have so many things going on that need correcting that I will be an endless stream of content for all this stuff that you provide, both as a therapist and as a friend. So I appreciate it. Look, this was great. I hope that people get a lot out of this. Again, we're going to link it in the notes. We'll do a PDF fillable online version. This will be available to everybody. Again, this was specifically created for the Shift community, so we'll link that as well for anybody who wants to check that out. Like we said, we worry about metrics and data and everything else. Why not in the things that matter most?
It's the last thing I'm going to say is obviously we're doing this as a year end thing, but like I just want to re-stress the point that like this can be done at any point in time. It just so happens that this is something that most people tend to do at the end of a year. At any point in time that you just kind of like want to get a better perspective on what worked for you and not in life, it's a great exercise to do. And just download this workbook and have it available for you to do at any point in time. But I absolutely adore putting these things together, and I love helping. And so like, I mean, if there's any questions you have or anything else, post in the comments, ask me questions, and I'm happy to guide you through it. But I really hope that you guys get as much help out of this as I'm sure that you would if you just really dive into it.
And just like you don't have to start your diet or your gym membership on a Monday, you don't have to start this or go through this exercise on January 1st. You can do it March 1st. It all still counts, right? So, but we appreciate everybody who's liked and subscribed. All the information you need will be in the description and show notes. We'll catch you guys after the holidays. And thanks again, everybody. To be continued.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks, Lee.
Hey everyone, it's Lee. Just one more thing before you go. Ever wondered how journaling could help change your life? You can find out by downloading the Emotional Alchemy Journal from the link in the description. It's a powerful tool for deep self-reflection, and it's completely free. And if you're looking to connect with Ori and learn more about how he can help you, visit his website at origoldstein.com. A link will also be in the description. Until next time, keep challenging the chaos within, be a little kinder to yourself, and let's continue to evolve together.